Afternoon, everyone. I'm Gail Ratliff. I'm Director of Programs here at Mosanon, and I'm going to talk to you guys about housing and resilience. I'm sure you can see the screen, so we're going to get started here. And if you guys have any questions, you can stop and ask the questions, or if you prefer, you can wait till the end of the session so we can talk. You can ask the questions then. But we're going to go through this and talk about the links between housing and health. And this basically talks about what it's like, and we're going to talk about struggling with unsafetyness and unstable housing, and that's mostly with the homeless community. They're the ones that struggles with this a lot, and these are the individuals that I worked with. And I've been working with homeless people for probably over 20 years now. And since Katrina here in New Orleans, I find that we've had a tremendous increase in homelessness for the elderly. And there are many reasons for that. However, the one reason that we see is that here in New Orleans, it costs so much for people to do successions. So the housing has never gone through successions, and because they don't outright own the home, it's a family home, but they don't outright own it. They happen to lose it and they have become homeless. So being unsafe and unstable and homeless, these are dangerous things that you can go through. And we're going to look at the overview. We're going to look at historical policies and practices that impact housing in New Orleans, housing and health, resources and toolkits. The next screen is we're going to talk about policies and practices that impact housing in New Orleans. Inequality in access to high ground, racial zoning, redlining, discrimination in mortgages, restrictive covenants, segregated public housing, and urban renewal. These are the, rigging the real estate market, segregation, inequality, and disaster risk. These are the things that we're going to talk about in terms of how homelessness and lack of affordable housing impact the homeless community, and what is it that the homeless community is doing, and the things that we're not doing to help the homeless community here with housing. Historical practices and practices that impact housing in New Orleans. Racial zoning and redlining. Racial zoning and redlining. These are the things that impact New Orleans as well, New Orleans residents as well. Discrimination in mortgages. Federal housing policies prevent Blacks from getting real estate capital while offering whites the opportunity to accumulate wealth in segregated suburbs. Since Katrina, we've had a growth in what they call gentrification. The low-income housing individuals have moved out of the city, and more of the middle income to wealthy income individuals have moved into the city, and they are buying the properties, and they're actually maintaining the property. And some of the property that they buy, they have the rents that's really high, and so the low-income individuals are not able to afford housing because of that. And it's mostly the segregated public housing that we have here in New Orleans. We no longer have as much segregated public housing as we used to have back in the 30s, 40s and 50s now. Public housing is being opened up to more of African American and people of color. Rebuilding after Katrina. We have gone through a pattern of long rebuilding, and we're still trying to rebuild and recover from Katrina. And this has put a tremendous effort on a lot of the low-income individuals who are not able to rebuild their home. They have a tendency to leave their homes abandoned. So we have got a great deal of abandoned housing here in New Orleans, especially in the lower Ninth Ward area. And in the Ninth Ward area, our abandoned properties are very widespread here, and not so much in the uptown area, but in the Gentilly area, we're dealing with a lot of abandoned housing. How do these housing policies and practices impact physical and mental health? Well, tremendously. You're looking at individuals who cannot afford rent, and families are unable to afford rent. We've got individuals who are sleeping in their cars. We have families with small children who are sleeping in their cars, are not able to find affordable housing. And sometimes you find a lady who just had a baby, they're released from the hospital and they go back to sleeping in their cars because there is no affordable housing. And I'm not talking about individuals who cannot afford it. They are working, they're able to have the first month rent. But here in New Orleans, landlords are required to have the deposit and first month's rent all at one time. And that can lead well into $2,000. So that's an amount that families, women and children, and men as well, they cannot afford the deposit and the first month rent at one time. So the policy is to try to talk with the federal government to see if they can come up with working programs that can help with deposits and first month's rent to assist the women and children in getting affordable housing. And for the mental health part of this can be this storm that we had, this big Katrina that we had, it led to a lot of mental health issues for individuals who did not have those issues. It led to that. So it's a situation where you have to do what you have to do. And being able to afford housing to get into a home is one thing, but being able to maintain that home is another. And we also have issues with health here because we have housing and houses that has mold in them, lead paint. The indoor quality is not that great, unsafe wiring, because landlords, they buy the property and they figure that they can put in just the minimum required air quality, the minimum required of whatever it needs to be put into the home just so that they can be able to rent it out. So you're looking at property that may not have been torn down and may still be dealing with mold and a lot of infestation in the property. And so that can lead to chronic diseases. Children have poor health regarding housing issues with landlords. Landlords try to make things right, but they're not really helping with the area. So I have a plan to work with landlords to try to get them to understand what it is that we can do, we can come together and do to work with the homeless and families. Resources and toolkits. These can be utilized by your clients to help them get the most out of their current situation and plan for the future. One of the resources and toolkits that I have is sitting down, talking with the client to get some type of set some goals for them to understand what is the goal for budgeting. How can you budget to be able to afford rent, utilities, in anything that may come up outside of your budget? Let's sit down and talk about a budget or something that can be used to assist you with any situation that you may be going through, or any plans that you have with you and your children. Let's all sit down and talk about a resource or something that can help you. One of the great resources we have down here is food banks. I sign clients up to go to the food bank on a regular basis, because that is a resource that can help you with your children during the times that you need to be able to feed your children. Ensure that your clients' living conditions support optimal health outcomes. The Healthy Housing Toolkit for housing counselors is to be able to, you have to be able to provide information about maintaining a healthy home. And sometimes it can be as simple as, when you and your family finish with dinner, why don't you clean the dishes, sweep the floor? If your child is not feeling well, let's try to find a way to get that child to a doctor and hospital to try to help find out what's going on with that child. These are the things that we can do, and to make it easier and understanding for them to be able to do what they need to do. And so we're gonna talk about information about maintaining healthy homes. And we all know that kids can play and leave toys around, but it's the fact that you have safety in the home is something that I also talk about with the clients as well. Let's talk about safety issues. Let's talk about making sure that the kids, when they are in the home, that we have everything that's safe for them, and they're able to have a safety environment in the home. How clients access affordable housing options in New Orleans. There are many ways to access affordable housing here in New Orleans. You can do affordable housing through what they call a PSH program, which is a permanent supportive housing program. That program provides permanent rental assistance, utilities assistance for anyone who qualifies under that program. Now, there are many qualifications for that program, so we have to really sit down and screen the client individually, not just the client. If the client has family members, we have to see what's the better outcome for the client as well as the family members. Say, for instance, if the client has someone in a home who's disabled, so we have to find affordable housing that can accommodate that disabled individual in the home. We have housing handle vouchers, and that's for low-income families to assist with rental payments. That can also be used for seniors, and it helps pay up to 70% of the seniors' housing, where they pay 30% of the housing, which is a really good thing because it's a voucher-based unit. We also have housing that's called rapid rehousing. Now, that is a very short-term housing program. It assists with deposit and 3 months rent. That is for someone who's receiving the amount of income that they need to be able to sustain themselves into permanent housing. But it sort of kind of gives them a, a hand up, as you may say, to try to help them become stabilized into their homes. So these programs we have here at New Orleans, specifically here at Ozanan Inn, are the programs that we work with. We also work with a program that's called Homeless Prevention Rapid Rehousing. So what this program does is the person is not literally homeless. We assist if they should receive an eviction notice, and we try to work with that individual to help them pay whatever rent they may be back on and help them catch up to keep them from going into homelessness. So that's one of the programs that's really working well here in New Orleans. We also have what they call a Shelter Plus Care program, and that program provides shelter plus care, and we assist with rental payments in that program. We have a large variety of housing programs here in New Orleans, but it's just finding the right fit for the right person. And it's just that you don't want to refer someone to a permanent supportive housing program who's able to work and maintain their housing through an earned income. So there's different programs that you can refer them to. And these are the programs here that I've just talked about: permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, shelter plus care, and there's several other programs here. This is a toolkit that they have for clients who are interested in purchasing homes for the first time. I know here in New Orleans, we have a toolkit, and it's a toolkit that you can go online and look for, and it can help you work with you for financial, how to purchase a home financially, and what it is that you need to do to be able to go through those steps and purchasing a home. And mortgages, it explains to you what a mortgage is, understanding closing costs, and understanding how to be a successful homeowner. So a toolkit can help you learn about different things in becoming a homeowner, and how to make a loan. What is it that the financial institution will look at in order to assist you with qualifying for a loan? These are the guidelines that they use to help clients avoid predatory lending. Attend a home ownership education course. HUS has approved many agencies that does this. And so you would contact HUD to find out which agency is having the education courses for the approval of home ownership. Interview several real estate agents. Check for their references. Make sure that they have the better reputation and someone that can really stand by their work. Get information about the prices of the homes. It's always good to look at several different homes and look at the price range of each of the homes. Try to cater it to your needs and what it is that you need. If you qualify for a home for $50,000, then it would be great to stay within that qualifying range and not try to get something that's really out of range. Shop for a lender and compare costs. go to banks, go to credit unions, go to home lending companies, and you can find out which is the better lender for you. When you fill out the application, do not give false information. It's always good that the client understands that a loan application is something that that can be checked out, and lying is a fraud. So we need to explain to them that being truthful on applications is the better way to go about it. Don't let anyone convince you to borrow more money than you can afford to pay back. It's always good to go to a financial advisor to talk with them about what it is that is the best for you and what you need to do. Never sign any blank documents. That's a no-no. That's not even when you're buying a home. It's even when you looking for information and you working with a client in any way. Another way to protect yourself in your property is to make sure that your property taxes are paid. Here in New Orleans, we have until January 31st to pay our property taxes. You pay it for the previous year. So, for instance, for the year 2018, we had to pay the taxes by January 2019. And you have to make sure you put into your budget the amount that you need to save on a monthly basis so that you can have that total at the end of the year to be able to pay your property taxes. And be sure that when you pay your property taxes, that all the information that you have is in your name. They have the correct name and the address, and you are the person that's responsible for the taxes. Have a valid will to ensure that your property will be legally passed down according to your wishes. That's one of the reasons why we have such an increase in elderly homelessness right now, because they never receive this valid document that they need as the property was passed down. Check your clients about home insurance, flood, and home policy insurance and everything that they need. There's some areas in New Orleans before Katrina, they stated that some areas were not flood zone areas. However, Katrina proved that wrong. All areas had become flood zone areas. So now it's always good to have flood insurance when you purchase a home, because sometimes without that insurance, you really don't have a way to repair your property. Refer any clients that may have experienced housing discrimination to fair housing agencies. And as much as we may or may not know about it, there are some people that truly experience discrimination in housing. That could be the disabled. One of the people that I understand that does it is sometimes the mental health individuals always have problems with discrimination in receiving fair housing. So talk to Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, talk to Fair Housing Program, and find out what their rights are. Have the clients understand that they have a right to live in the home of their choice. They have that right. And help them understand what their rights are. And agencies and organizations that are centered around housing. We have a substantial amount of agencies here in New Orleans that help with housing. These individuals assist with housing rent payments. They assist with utility payments. They assist with back utility payments, and they assist with back rent payments. So it's it's a way for you to understand what your client is going through. Why is it when they move into a new home that they can't have the electricity turned on at that new home? The reason why is because they have an old bill that they have not paid off. Talk with your clients to find out if there's any electric bill, any water bill that they have not paid, that you and your client need to look into to be able to transfer services over to their new home. So Unity of Greater New Orleans, Hotel Hope, Travelers Aid, The Mission, Ozanon Inn, Hager's House. This is a plethora of information regarding housing and how to assist your client with housing and organizations that help. Regional agencies and organizations and Baton Rouge, the Office of Community Development. Coastal Louisiana Community Housing Development Organization, Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program. These are Section 8. Tenant-based rental programs can be any senior housing, and senior housing can be 55 or older. And any apartment complex that have tenant-based, sometimes a complex will tell you we have maybe 5 units that we have tenant-based rental assistance programs with. Find out from those rental units which ones they are, who helps with that as well. Any questions?
Excellent presentation.
All right, folks. So session 1 from yesterday is uploaded, and I will be uploading this one later on today. So thank you guys, and have a good one.